John Cole with DiscountJuicers.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you, and this is an episode that's long awaited by you guys and also me because I haven't actually tested these two machines side by side in a dedicated video such as this one where I could really get into depth about some of the differences between these two different juicers, the Omega VSJ843, which is in fact my favorite juicer right now, and the Namawell Vitality 5800 Juicer. There's lots of people on YouTube promoting the Namawell juicer as the best juice in the entire world. Now, should you believe these people? I leave that up to you guys, right? I know that Namawell does sponsor a lot of different, promoters and people like that to get them to sell the product. And, in my personal opinion, a lot of those people, they don't have the range of experience that I have with juicers and with juicing and actually background knowledge on the companies and the manufacturing facilities and factories that actually make the juicers. I do my best job that I possibly can in the world to share with you guys the honest truth about the matter. And here's the thing, with every comparison in life, whether you're comparing two girls that you're dating and like which one am I going to want to marry, right? Each one has their own sets of pros and cons. You got to figure, well, I don't like how this one does her hair sometimes, and I don't like how she yells at me sometimes, but this one, she's really nice, and she helps me out in my garden, and I think I'll go with her. So it's kind of like everything is as a pro and a con, just like the juicers. So I'm really kind of against the statement, this is the best juicer, or saying this is the best, or this is the best. It depends on your specific needs and situations. Maybe you might be a guy and you might like the girl yelling at you, even spanking you sometimes. I don't know what you guys like, but I do know what I like in juicers, and I do my best in these videos to compare and contrast and give you guys my honest opinions. And more importantly, at the end of these episodes, I actually compare these two juicers juicing the exact two same items in the exact same quantity so you guys can see the results and see and learn about the process aside from my expert commentary. Now, I will say I was given this juicer by Namawell. I was also given this juicer by Omega. They don't sponsor me necessarily, but they give me free juicers to review, to check out, so I can see what they're about. And I make plenty of videos about the machines telling the truth. And, some companies appreciate that I do this, especially if they have a good product. And some companies don't give me free juicers, and I must go out and buy them so I can actually test them against other juicers. And that's where I kind of get a little bit like, why doesn't this company want to send me a juicer and want the exposure that they're going to get from me telling the truth about their product, unless they're scared about somebody telling the truth about their product. Now, the next thing I want to say before I go on any further is if you guys enjoy my episodes, enjoy these videos where I compare two juicers side by side to give you guys my expert commentary, you can reward me and support me by making your purchase at DiscountJuicers.com. This allows me directly to continue to make these videos. Literally it puts food on my table. It powers the lights that you guys are seeing today. It allows me to get my videos edited. It allows me to do what I do in life. So I want to thank you guys in advance for supporting me. And I want to thank you guys who have supported me in the future. We do have a price match policy where we will price match other authorized retailers with the item in stock to the best of our ability, so that you don't think you could have to save $5 and buy it somewhere else and not support me, because hopefully you found this video as well as my other videos, which I have over 500 episodes at this time on this YouTube channel, dedicated to comparing and contrasting all the different major brand juicers, including also vacuum blenders and other appliances that allow you to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables, because I'm committed and solidly know deep within my heart, through personal experience and through many testimonials that I've gotten over the years, that fruits and vegetables are the most beneficial foods on the entire planet. And I've also seen data suggesting that most Americans, less than 10%, get their minimum requirements of vegetables in them a day. And I think that's where really juicing is a game changer. Why? Juicing is a game changer because literally you can take 5 pounds of carrots and convert it down to like literally about 4 to 5 cups of juice. And then you got the nutrition out of 5 pounds of carrots into just a few cups of juice, and I drink about 4 cups of root juice, including carrots, every single day. So literally my vegetable consumption on a daily basis exceeds 10 pounds approximately. And most of the vegetables I eat are actually in their juice form, where I keep some of the fiber. And that's one of the reasons why I'm not the biggest fan of blending. Aside from the fact that standard blending oxidizes the food massively, it does not allow you to increase the volume of food you're eating. For example, if I blended up 5 pounds of carrots in a smoothie, I would have 5 pounds of carrot mush or baby food. But if I juice the carrots, I remove some of the fiber out the side of the machine. But in carrots specifically, it still keeps about half of the fiber because there's soluble and insoluble fiber, and that's for a different episode. In any case, let's get off into comparing the two different juicers. So I will say that the Omega Juicer VSJ843 has been out for many, many, many years. They've got all the bugs worked out, and it's just a solid machine. Now, the main issue we're having at this time when I'm filming this episode, which is October 2020, I don't know when this will actually be aired, is that we've been having stock outages with Omega due to COVID and probably other reasons. We have not been able to keep this machine in stock, which I guess is a good and a bad thing because people cannot get it. So if you need a juicer now, unless you want to wait, and if you do wait, then the date might get changed again because they always come in and then they go back out of stock, or they never come in. I don't exactly know. Whereas Nama has been a lot more consistent with having inventory. They did have some inventory issues in the beginning, but I think they're pretty much gotten those worked out. Due to COVID, a lot more people have found juicing and, more importantly, eating healthier to boost their immune system, because it's our immune system before any kind of vaccine is our first line of defense, before we get any kind of, situation or contagion in our lives, in my opinion, and based on some science that I've read. So the second thing I want to say about both these juicers, which may surprise you guys, even though this has an Omega name on it and is promoted and sold by Omega here in the United States, which actually has been in business for over 30 years. They're probably like the third longest running American-owned juicer company in America. And the Nama juicer, which just started selling within the last few years, sold by Namawell, which is actually a brand new company that was maybe started a year or so before they started selling the Nama juicer. Both these machines are made in the same factory, right? And I'll tell you guys in advance, both these machines are made by Hurom, which is probably the leader in juicing technology. Hurom sells under their own brand name. I'm not a dealer for Hurom. I do buy Hurom juicers so I could actually test them and make videos for you guys, and you could hear my comments about them in my Hurom juicer videos. In general, the quality is quite good on those juicers, but every juicer has its own peculiarities about it, and in many cases, I find myself always going back to the VSJ843 because I love this design the most, as you guys will learn for various reasons that I'll be showing you guys in this video. So basically what you guys are going to get are the motors in both these machines. I think, and I believe to be fairly similar, although I'm told that the Nama has basically more torque, more power in it, although they are both rated at 150 watts. I've not seen specific motor specifications on that. I've just been told by Nama that we have more torque and power on it. And that being said, I will say that I have been using this Nama. I mean, you can tell it's well used. It's not looking new at this point. And it rarely ever stops on me. So I will have to say maybe that is totally the case. But on the other hand, it also has a much smaller feed chute, which means you're not going to put as fat items down the machine to cause it to stop. Whereas the VSJ does have a larger feed chute, as we will explore in a little bit. So if you're putting the same exact fat item down this one, will it stop? I don't exactly know, because you can't exactly do that because a feed chute is, in my opinion, significantly smaller, which is a significant hindrance in juicing, which is a convenience factor. And if juicing's hard, I'm not going to do it, although I have been motivated to use the Nama for the last several months straight due to the coronavirus and that I've been out of stock on the VSJ. I really want to get to know this inside and out before I make this video for you guys, because I have used the VSJ, I don't even know, for at least the last 5 or more years, like straight. I've had a lot of on-hands time with the Nama. So yeah, motors, pretty equivalent. Maybe the Nama leads out in more torque, probably, and that's why they say you don't have to pre-cut celery, in the Nama, and they show people putting in celery stalks whole, and I did do that in the Nama, and it did work. But I've also done unprecut celery in the VSJ, and it has also worked. That being said, what I'll tell you guys is this: I'm not Nama, and I'm going to tell you guys what I think. And I think that if you get any vertical juicer, whether it's a Nama that says you don't have to pre-cut stuff, or the VSJ, or the Slow Star, or the Kuvings, you know, any different vertical juicer, I always recommend you guys follow my specific directions for juicing in vertical juicers. I'll put a link down below to that video. Juice like a pro in any vertical slow juicer. If you want to specifically get into juicing celery, because I know that's a big thing, I'll put a link down below to my video, juicing celery in the VSJ843 or any vertical slow juicer. You do need to pre-cut your celery properly or it will jam up. Yes, even in the Nama, I juice celery and it jammed up on me. You know, maybe it jammed a bit less than the VSJ, but it also depends on your technique. And this is another thing Nama does not necessarily tell you. There are ways to juice uncut celery if you want. I'm not even going to show you guys that because most people are going to see me putting celery in. They're not going to pay attention to the finer details, and then it's going to mess up, and then they're going to have issues. And, you know, my goal is to have people that know how to juice properly, to set proper expectations, and under-promise and over-deliver, right? On the other hand, if you go to the Nama website, my personal opinion on this, once again, this is my opinion, I believe that Nama is primarily a marketing company and a customer service company because at present time they're not a manufacturing company. And they tend to maybe over-promise and hopefully at least deliver or maybe under-deliver. I'm not exactly sure. You know, they have statements on their website like, this machine has a 10-year warranty. Right? Oh wow, 10 years, that sounds great. The Omega, on the other hand, has a 15-year warranty. But then if you look on the Nama website, it's 10-year warranty in big letters with a small little asterisk. And if you look, and on the page where it has the asterisk, you can't look at the bottom of the page to see what does the asterisk mean. I'm like that, but most people won't look for the asterisk. What does that asterisk mean? And that's a warranty exclusion. So basically, 10 years is on the entire motor body unit. This part is the least likely to fail on any juicer. Their motors rarely fail, and you have a 10-year warranty on that, which is great. But it's only 2 years on the parts, which is what they put in writing. Although I have spoken to Nama and they said we'll take care of people after the 2 years if there's issues, but this is not in writing, so it's not enforceable by any means. And if they decide to make a policy change next year or whatever, you know, then they don't take care of people. Buying parts for juicers can get quite expensive. You know, the most likely part to break on any juicer is the juicing screen on a vertical or horizontal juicer, in which case you'll have to buy another one if you don't have a warranty. Meanwhile, on the Omega VSJ, the motor base has a full 15-year warranty. The parts also, amazingly, have a 15-year warranty, right? And Omega has been having issues with customer service due to COVID, working from home, reduced staff. That being said, I can let you guys know that all my customers that I'm aware of that let me know and send me a picture of the broken part, I make sure their warranty request is being taken care of by Omega because I have special, basically, connections with Omega to ensure my customers get help. So that's another reason why you should support me in my work of these videos, because I'm also there to be your liaison, to stand on your side so that my customers or you guys could juice. I know how juicing is so important for your health, how it makes you feel so amazing when you drink it, and if you're not drinking your juice for a couple of days, you just don't feel as good. And I want you guys to be able to juice. Now sometimes there's, you know, part outages at Omega and whatnot that delays shipping, but for the most part, every customer that I've had that send me a picture of a broken part, I will help get Omega to honor their warranty for you guys and get you the part sent out. Meanwhile, on the Nama, I did have an issue with the Nama juicer. I actually cracked this little top here. There was a small crack in it. It was leaking juice. And I called Nama to test them to see how their warranty support was. And, you know, a week passed, a week, 2 weeks passed. Didn't get a call back. So I didn't email them. I didn't do anything. I was just waiting for a call back. Meanwhile, the same day I called Nama, I called Tribest, another company to make the Green Star twin gear juicers, as well as the Slow Star and the Solar Star juicers. I called them the same day. Actually, they got back to me, I think, the next day or the day after. And actually, they fixed my warranty issue, which actually the motor went out on my other juicer. They took care of me within a week. I was up and running again. Whereas I was still waiting for a phone call from Nama. Then I made a video about the Nama and the situation, and then immediately after my video came out, or actually maybe a little bit before, I told Nama of this, and of course by the next couple days they sent me the replacement part. So I do recommend for every company that if you have a warranty claim, both call and email. Some companies are better with phone, some companies are better at email, but if you give them notification both ways, you're more assured to get help. So once Nama found this out, they took care of me, and just today I actually emailed Nama support a question because I want to know what their official stance is, and now my question to them was, hey, my juicer's getting quite stained, how do I clean it? And I know what Omega would say. Omega would say soak the parts in hot water and Cascade dishwashing detergent overnight, and then scrub the parts the next day. And then usually that'll get most of the stains out. And the stains on the juicers are in fact mineral deposits. Another thing I'm not a big fan of that Nama does is on their website they promote the machine in pretty big letters. Makes over 30% more juice when juicing, Joe's Mean Green Juice, and makes up to 60% more juice when juicing leafy greens or something like that. Once again, they got a little double asterisk or something on there. And they don't really say 30% or it says up to 30% or up to 60% more against what juicer, And surely in my testing, it's not making up to 30% or 60% more than the VSJ843 or other slow juicers. But in fact, when you compare it to a high-speed juicer, it may actually make more 30%, up to 30% or up to 60% more in some cases. Although in a recent video, which I'll post down below, I compare the Nama to a high-speed barrel, which I'm not a fan of high-speed juicers, but the Nama actually made less juice than the high-speed juicer. Alright? So, I think that Nama may push the envelope on the marketing to sell more machines. I also go to most websites and I always see a Nama ad on my feed or on my Instagram or on wherever I am because they're paying a lot of money for ads. And yes, they're selling a lot of juicers, and in general, they got a good juicer. But really, should you invest your money in this juicer? Here's the thing. The Nama and the VSJ at present time are both the same price. So 2-year warranty on the parts, 10 years on the motor base, 15 years warranty. So from the get-go, what does that tell you about the machines? To me, it tells me, wow, the Omega could put 15 years on this juicer. It's got to be a much more durable juicer than the Nama, where they only want to put a 2-year warranty and a 10-year warranty on the motor. Now, I know they may have some contractual obligations with Huram, because Huram also has the same exact warranty. 10 years on the motor, 2 years on the parts. So it's a little bit kind of funny to me that they're doing that. I don't know about all those dealings behind the closed doors, but maybe, Huram doesn't want Nama to have a better warranty than they actually have. And at the other time, I would say, why does Huram have such a small warranty when the Omega has a 15-year warranty? Omega's been selling basically these machines for many years, and they know they're solid performers. Why is Huram scared to offer a longer warranty or provide better customer service? Because that's what it comes down to in the end. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm just here to share with you guys my opinions and the facts about these things, alright? So aside from the warranty, who's supporting the machine, once again, Omega has a good solid track record. They've been in business now for 30 years. I don't believe they're going to go anywheres. Meanwhile, Nama's a relatively new company selling juicers, although the owner of Nama has been in business for many, many years and in different industries. So I'm solid the company's not going to go anywhere. I did visit their facility in Southern California, which is shared office space. They do have a separate area for the Nama, division. And, I also have been to Omega. Omega has a much larger footprint and real estate profile than the Nama does. They have a building in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. They are in. I visited there, and then also visited the super huge mega warehouse in Weston, Florida. They now have a warehouse in Paris, Kentucky, and I think everything out of Nama ships out of the warehouse in California at this time. So I think for company stability point, I would definitely put my money on Omega. Not to say that Nama is going to go anywhere. Just not quite as sure as Omega, so if that concerns you, then once again, the winner is Omega on this front. Now, let's go ahead and get into the specific juicers. themselves and see how they perform, how they're the same, and how they're different. And here's the thing, right? This is the second version of the horizontal auger style juicers that came out. And then you could maybe call this the third generation, but is the third generation better than the second generation? And in my opinion, it's not. I mean, there's some small benefits to this, but also I think it's also going backwards for convenience and ease of use. Once again, these are my personal opinions. And now there's even generations surpassing this that now have a screenless design that I'm also not a fan of myself. I've tested the brand new Huron machines with the screenless design, and they just put far too much pulp in the juice, and the cleaning time is pretty much equivalent to me on the VSJ843. The other thing I really want to mention is that another thing I really try to teach people when using a vertical juicer is to not use the pusher. As you guys can see, I don't have a pusher in the top of my VSJ843 because this machine is pretty much good at gravity feeding. Whatever you put in there, the machine basically sucks it in and it gets juiced and the pulp comes out, so you don't have to screw around pushing stuff in. Because here's the thing, on a vertical juicer, if you start using the pusher like you would on an old-fashioned centrifugal juicer that you pretty much got to use the pusher, you may be pushing in things too quickly. This will hurt your yield, this will reduce your yield, and more importantly, this will cause jamming and blockages and problems in the long run. Meanwhile, as you guys can see on the Nama, I do have the pusher in here. And that's because I found with the Nama, while I don't like to use pushers and I'm staunchly against pushers, there's been times when things get jammed up in the bottom of this feed chute that actually won't drop into the juicer because of the third generation design. It's just a little bit different than the second generation, and things don't want to drop in as easily. So then you actually have to use a pusher to get them unjammed. I don't like to still use a pusher for any other reason but to get things unjammed. But then thereby, guess what? It gives you an extra part to clean, and I like to be as efficient as possible and make the minimum amount of dishes so I can save more water and save more time when cleaning up the juicer. And actually getting into cleaning, I'll tell you guys in advance, this machine is the fastest vertical juicer that I've found to clean. It takes me about 3 minutes. That's actually tied with a screenless design that I also cleaned. I did a video about that, if you remember, put a link down below. And the Nama, due to reasons that you guys will see in a minute, it takes me about a minute extra longer to clean the Nama because there's a little bit more nooks and crannies and passageways and tight spots and all these things. Not quite as easy to clean for me. So that's a 25% increase in cleaning. So then it's like, and you're going to learn about the increase in juicing time when we do juice our organic romaine lettuce hearts today. All right. So I guess let's just go ahead and get a comparison. So both these machines run at a low and slow 43 revolutions per minute, which is one of the slowest vertical auger style juicers on the market. They both have a single auger design, which is has a vertical orientation. The augers are made of the same exact materials. The juicing screens are fairly identical, really close. The main difference is the feed chute and also how the wiping blade assembly is driven. And actually, I prefer the drive on the VSJ843, although that also may have present some challenges. And actually, the other thing is the wiping blade on the VSJ843 runs at the same 43 RPMs that the auger does, whereas on the Nama, it is a reduced speed, so it runs the wiping blade at a slower RPM than 43, which is said to reduce the amount of foam in the juice. So while I have noticed it does reduce the foam in the juice a tad bit, it's not significant. And the issue with running the wiping blade slower, you have to have some gearing in there to do that, and the gearing is a lot more complex and takes more time to clean, and that for that reason I don't think it's a worthy benefit, although some might like a little bit less foam in the juice depending on what you're juicing. So yeah, and then both these have a spout cap to basically prevent drips going on your countertop. This actually has a square port, which actually I find a little bit more difficult to clean because there's 4 sides to it, whereas this is more of a rounded port and it's actually open, so you could kind of get your brush in there and just twirl it around and spin it. So it's a lot easier to clean than this guy where I actually got to brush like 4 distinct sides, so it's a bit harder to keep clean. in this little area. Although I would say probably this little flap here has been a bit more problematic in breakage, although it is covered under warranty. Not quite as secure as this more heavy-duty flap on the Nama. Now the next thing you guys are going to notice, this is pretty streamlined on here. It's just basically clean. It has where the juice comes out and also the pulp come out. This has where the pulp comes out, and it actually has a little lever that says close and open. So this little lever, once again, it's a pro and a con. The pro is you can close it, and that's like when you juice in the VSJ, the little flap on the bottom, which is controlled by the lever, is manual, so you could put it all the way in or take it all the way out. In the Nama, you want to have it closed during juicing, you want to have it open for cleaning, and maybe sometimes you can adjust this. If pulp is backing up in there, you can maybe open it halfway or even open it all the way to help get the pulp coming out. So this may be of benefit to some, but to me, the problem with this little lever, which I have used, and actually I do find it a little bit convenient, but the negative is the cleaning. You really cannot get in that little part, or the little silicone gasket, as I'll show when I take this apart, out easily to clean. So it makes cleaning significantly more difficult, for a small benefit of being able to adjust this on the fly, which in some cases is a little bit nice, okay? And then let's see, the other thing I want to say is that they do encourage mixing in the jar or mixing in the bowl by closing the spout cap and letting juice accumulate in here. In both juicers, I will always tell you guys that I recommend against that practice. I have seen that it reduces your overall yield. But if you don't really care about your yield, yeah, mix in your jar. I prefer to let everything come out, and I'll just mix it around in the glass it drops into. The one benefit of doing that is maybe if you're making nut milks, then maybe mixing in the bowl may get a little bit higher yield of the fats in the nuts before they are ejected out, if you're just basically dropping in soaked water with the nuts into the juicer at the same exact time. Since I'm talking about nut milks, I will also say that my preferred method of making nut milks is not soaking almonds in water and then putting the whole almonds and the water through the machine at once. While you can do that, and that is a technique Nama uses to make nut milk, I prefer a much better technique of making nut milk, a much more efficient way of making nut milk, which is actually taking your nuts, soaking them, and then pouring off the soak water, and then blending the nuts with water, and then pouring them through the juicer. So when you do this in the Nama, it doesn't quite work as well as in the VSJ843. In the VSJ843, it just comes out much, much better. This way you're fractionating the nuts in a smaller particle size. You're releasing more of those essential fats and oils into the liquid. So when you basically pour that mixture through the juicer, you get a really nice, more richer milk that has a lot more fat, a lot more body. And when you juice whole almonds, or even you could do it in this machine too, with the water through the machine, you get a more watery milk. That function does not work as well in the Nama. So if you want to make nut milks, then I would say definitely, if that's a major thing you want to do, go with the VSJ. Not to say that the Nama won't do it, it will. It's just, for me, I didn't find it did as good of a job, because it won't extract from already pre-blended nuts in water, but it will extract nuts put in whole with the water, all right? Post a link down below on a video I made on how to make almond milk and coconut milk in the VSJ843 the way I like to promote and I like to do, although other people may not agree with me because they think it's an extra step, John, you don't need to do it. But when you taste the difference in how I make it, when I pre-blend versus not pre-blend, there's a big difference, because I've done that also. And that's why I'm the juicing expert, because I will investigate all of these different techniques and show you guys my best techniques. And that's why my videos are long, because I have so much information to share. If you guys really want to know the exact best ways to do things, and if you don't care, get any old juicer. It doesn't really matter. But if you want to know what I like and why, you got to watch my videos, because there's all these little nuances about machines that I like or don't like. And there's some things, I kind of like the handiness of this, but I don't like that I can't clean it, all right? So yeah, so moving on, just the exterior components of this. This also sits higher on your countertop, which, some people have low cabinets, and then this won't fit under, whereas this is a lot more shorter. Both these are pretty much the same. They take similar footprints. If I had to say one is a bit more narrow, maybe the Nama takes a little bit less footprint, because it's kind of like more tall And you know, the VSJ is kind of has a little more boxy style look. Yeah, so I guess on to, let's start taking the machines apart piece by piece. So the first major part is the feed chute. So on the feed chute on the VSJ843, it is actually completely black and not see-through. I guess that's a pro and a con. I actually kind of like the see-throughness of the Nama, that actually you kind of see what's going in the spout because it's a smoke color. That being said, I also don't like the Nama feed chute. I mean, this is how it lines up on the table here. This one's a little bit taller. Now what you guys are seeing is this has just one big feed chute hole, which is really nice, and it actually has a decent sized funnel with a good lip on it, right? This funnel is a lot more functional in my opinion than the Nama funnel, which is actually you know, let's see if we line these up. It's definitely smaller in terms of the shape and the overall funnel size. Plus the lip is not as deep. So I tend, when I put things in this funnel, like when I rejuice pulp, it kind of overflows a little bit, whereas on the VSJ, it kind of is in there more solid. In addition, you guys are going to see the feed chute on this machine, and let me hold up the feed chute on this machine so you guys can see the differences, right? That's a pretty big difference between the different feed chutes. I'll be measuring those in a second. Now, the VSJ only has one feed chute. This is one large feed chute, which is great. The Nam, on the other hand, has this small feed chute, and this is for things like feeding in carrots, which I juice a lot of carrots. That's one of my main things I juice. If you're juicing celery stalks, whole, uncut, you would also use this feed chute. That being said, I encourage you guys, no matter what vertical juice you get, to pre-cut your celery. Even if you get in Nama, even though they say you can juice uncut celery, I think you're going to run into more problems than it's worth, and I want you guys to be happy. And I'm not going to tell you guys, you know, something just to sell you a machine to say you don't have to cut your celery, only to have you be upset. I'm going to tell you guys to pre-cut your celery no matter what. Okay. That being said, the Nama does have a second entry point. So if you guys can see, you have the feed chute that goes in on the top here, and then you also have a side entry feed chute. I don't know if you guys can see that, but basically there's a funnel here, and then this funnel kind of goes in and will come down, you know, here. That being said, you can't stick a long carrot in this because it can't go in diagonally. You can stick small piece of apple, whereas you would put an apple here and then flick it in, because this opening here on how wide and how tall it is a lot bigger than this one. But this also will, it takes time, because now instead of just taking a chunk of apple and dropping it in the VSJ, you got to put it on this thing, and then you got to flick it in to this thing, which once again will increase your overall juicing time. Now if you're juicing something like cherry tomatoes, you could drop cherry tomatoes in on this, and this is a little bit angled, so actually the cherry tomatoes will just kind of roll in and drop down. Whereas on the VSJ, if you put cherry tomatoes in, you're going to go on here, then you're going to have to flick them in because this is completely flat. You know, I don't tend to juice a lot of cherry tomatoes. If you're pre-cutting celery, then you could put them on the pre-cut celery in here, then flick it in. Whereas on the VSJ, you know, I find it easier just to take handfuls of celery and just drop it in there instead of having to worry about flicking it in too. And if you're trying to just put handfuls of cut celery in this top feed chute, forget about it. And I ain't even from New York. And the reason why I say that is because the funnel on the top of this feed chute is even worse. It has barely any lip. I've missed this chute a lot, and I always have over spillage if I'm using this small feed chute with pre-cut stuff or rejuicing pulp. Stuff just goes everywhere, and guess what? I don't like when stuff goes everywhere because that makes it harder for me to clean up when I'm done juicing. I just want an easy job. I want it to be done easily. I want it to be done right the first time. So that's why I prefer the VSJ843 feed chute. Is a lot more functional. I mean, the question is, well, John, why did they put such a small feed chute on the Nama? So, you know, I know the Nama, you know, is made to maybe international standards, and I know in some countries they have standards on how big a feed chute size can be, and this is the feed chute size, how large they can be, and then I guess they get around that by having the secondary feed chute, which could be a little bit larger, the side entry feed chute. And in America, we don't have necessarily the same exact, specifications about feed chute size. So Omega puts a larger feed chute on here, and I like that a lot. Other Huron juicers, guess what? They also have this small feed chute size that I'm not a fan of. But other than that, these feed chutes are pretty much similar. On the bottom, they need to be lined up properly, and they have built-in magnets that, if not assembled properly on the top of the machine, will not allow the machine to come on. The biggest issue I have when people assemble the machine, they first get it, they put it on, they assemble it how they think it's right, they turn it on. John, my machine doesn't turn on. I just used it yesterday. I never used it before. Well, you got to lock the top part in place properly, and then it'll turn on. You know, on both the Omega and the Nama, you can put the feed chute on the reverse direction, and the machine will run. So if you're like a left-handy or a right-handy, you want the feed chute on the other side, you guys can do that. So please keep that in mind. Other than that, I will say that I really like on the bottom of the feed chute how things just kind of drop down this feed chute a lot easier because it's a straight passageway through, and on this, it does look straight through, but for some reason stuff just does not drop into the auger as efficiently. Alright, so what I want to do for you guys next is we got out my micrometer here. We're going to go ahead and turn this on, and we will actually make sure it's zeroed out, and we're going to go ahead and measure the feed chute size on the top of the Nama for you guys. Because of the small funnel, it is easy to measure, and that's what we get. We get 1.73, so maybe you could say that's 1.75 if I maybe push it and stretch this out a little bit. Nope, it's at 1.72 now. So 1.72, and then the width at the middle is 1.30. So that is how big the feed chute is, the top feed chute on the Nama. My micrometer will not be able to accurately read the inside feed chute opening. The depth or the height of it, but I can measure the depth with this guy approximately. Can't really get in there because of the plastic here, because it goes down to a little finer point. Let's see here. Looks about right. So it's like 2.76, but once again, that side entry, that's not quite as convenient unless maybe you're juicing something like cherry tomatoes. Whereas the VSJ843, we're going to go ahead and do the front to back measurement first, which once again is a 1.33, so that's approximately the same depth as the Nama, but let's check out the width here. Alright, so let me see if I can get it straight. This is a bit harder to measure because of the funnel is so tall. Let's see how close I can get this. I think that's pretty much accurate right there. So yeah, that's what we got right there. You guys can see it, 2.44. So 2.44 compared to 1.71, right? So you know what? This saves me a bunch of time, as you guys will see in a minute. And I mean, yeah, it's not that much bigger. Trust me, guys, it makes a big difference when you're juicing and you cut up stuff super tiny to fit in that feed chute. Alright, next coming out, let's go ahead and pull out the augers that are actually fairly similar, but also a fair bit different. So if you guys look at these augers, I mean, you might think at first glance they look pretty much the same, but if we look at these on the table, you guys will see, well, why don't we do a micrometer on this and check out the total width of the auger. So on this auger, from top to bottom, it's a 3.58, and on this auger from top to bottom, it's 3.38. So technically, this auger has a little bit more run to it, meaning it's longer, meaning that as the produce goes down it, there's a little bit more space for it to be crushed up and, you know, crushed out and getting the juice out, whereas this auger is a bit more condensed, so it's not happening, it's happening a little bit faster. The other thing that I want to measure that's very important to me is the width of the auger. So if I hold these guys up, you guys can clearly see which auger has a bigger wingspan, right? The VSJ843 has a bigger wingspan. This is quite important to me because this explains why the Nama the produce doesn't drop in and go into the machine and get stuck up at the top, because this auger is spinning around and it doesn't suck things in because the wingspan, it's like it has a smaller mouth basically, right? So the wingspan on this from tip to tip, which is not entirely accurate because of the fact that it also drives the wiping blade, but the tip to tip is 4.39. If we kind of go, if we kind of get a measurement of without the tips, but the tips do act as partly, you know, a way to get produced into the machine, it's 3.55 approximately. Okay, so now if we do this one, the wingspan on this, right, is 3.46. So you guys clearly could see, you know, putting these together, you guys could see the differences in there on how much bigger the wingspan is on the VSJ843. It's just a little bit bigger, and these literally extra centimeters allow things to more easily go down and drop in and have this auger come around and chunk it off and then have it go in to the juicer based on my experience. Okay, so that's a big one for me, because you could see the bite between like here and here, which is like pretty good, and the bite between, you know, here and here, much shorter. Now the other thing actually I kind of like on the Nama is that underneath the Nama, it's entirely open on the bottom. This area will always have some pulp residue in it when you're done juicing, so don't be alarmed with that. I do like it's completely open, so it's easier to clean. On the VSJ843, it is open, but then there's this shaft that comes down the middle of it. Still easier to clean than many other vertical juicers, and pulp will collect underneath here as well. While this is open, one of the next parts is a little bit different, so actually I'm not a big fan of that personally, but you'll see the differences, all right? Next two parts coming out are, I guess we're going to pull out the wiping blade first on the VSJ and the wiping blade on the Nama. So if we look at these wiping blades, yes, the Nama actually technically is a smaller wiping blade, so that may be less area to clean, and at the same time it's harder to clean, right? So both these machines have silicone flaps that squeegee the outside of the drum or the juicing bowl and the inside of the screen. They're fairly similar in actually shape and what they do, and then they actually have these blanks that are just solid plastic, kind of there for maybe looks, I could only think. The main difference with these guys is on the bottom. You guys can see on this one there's all these teeth, and every one of these teeth is usually soaked in juice. When you're done juicing, you have to wash it, and if you guys look closely at mine, it's getting a lot of mineral deposits, and I got to take a brush and clean out in between each one of these teeth, or you will get buildup on there with soap and water. And you know, I find this to be a pain to clean. Whereas on the VSJ843, look, it's completely smooth on the bottom, so juice doesn't tend to get stuck in between any kind of grooves in there. It's a lot easier to clean. And the main difference with this is that this, instead of being driven by a gear on the bottom, this actually has these two little cutouts on the top of the wiping blade that are driven by the auger. Actually, I haven't done this before, but we'll line up these two wiping blades on the top. So if we line up these two wiping blades on the top, the wiping blade on the Nama is just a tad bit smaller because the auger is smaller. How this wiping blade works is the auger will go into the top of this and literally sit in there, and now when you turn the auger, it turns the wiping blade at the same exact speed. The only reason why this can be problematic is over time, if you don't use a juicer properly, your auger gets lifted up because you get too much pulp underneath there because you're feeding things too fast, and or you're not pre-cutting things. The auger will lift up above this wiping blade, and what happens is the auger will spin above the wiping blade, and the wiping blade will not spin although your juicer is still running. This is only for visually looks, although some people freak out. My juicer isn't working. I'm like, well, is it still juicing? And is the wiping blade not running? And that's because I think the mating points between the auger and this little top piece kind of get worn down a little bit. My unit did do that, and then they replaced, I think, the wiping blade, and then I didn't have that issue anymore. So that's the issue with this. So I'd much rather have that issue, and if you use the machine properly, it should never do that for you. One of my customers found some toilet like nylon washer to put on top of this, which is not approved by any means, but then he found that kept his auger down to keep spinning the wiping blade. I mean, the other thing that they don't tell you is that you can just assemble this machine without the wiping blade installed, and then you just want to have a wiper. Newer juicers don't even have a wiping blade anymore. Anyways, it's probably more information than you want to know, but that's what you're going to get in my videos, all right? Next to the juicing screens here, so we look at the juicing screens. they're pretty much similar. I mean, they're pretty much the same height. And actually, are they the same width is the question here. Why don't we take the micrometer and measure the inside ID, the inside diameter between them at the tips. Alright, so this one's a 3.82, and on this guy, 3.79. So for all practical purposes, it's pretty much the same. But yeah, so basically these screens are kind of pretty much similar, but a little bit different. The mating points at the bottom are a little bit different, how they lock in. This has 1, 2, 3, 4 points where it locks in. This also has 4 points where it locks in. The screens are pretty much similar. They look to be fairly similar on the outset. They're both open on the bottom, all the way open. They don't have like a little port that the pulp has to go through. Now the one difference I have seen on these screens is when I'm juicing in the VSJ, at the end of juicing there'll be very little particulate like stuck in the screen. Some juicers like the Slow Star, the Kuvings will always have, basically if you're juicing carrots, there'll be carrot pulp literally jammed inside the screen. With the VSJ, you barely get any kind of jammed in pulp, which is probably a function of the screen, how it's designed, and also how well the juicer grinds or not grinds. What I have noticed on the NEM is that there's less grinding pulp than the Slow Star or the Kuvings, but more than the VSJ. So it's not that bad, the grounded pulp on here. I think I haven't compared these side by side, but I would believe that both machines put a similar amount of pulp into the juice that you're creating. Right, onto the bowl. This is where it gets a bit different. This bowl is significantly more heavy than this bowl, and the main reason for that is that inside this bowl you have a spline here that is basically just a connector. So you have an input shaft here, and this goes to the output shaft, and it has its own little bearing assembly in here, and it's all sealed. So basically you'll never get juice drips on the top of your juicer, which is a pro for the Nama. At the same time, this is another point that actually if you're juicing a lot like I have done in the past, the metal warms up, and when metal warms up it expands. So what happens is this auger, the metal on the bottom of the auger and this shaft expands, so then basically the auger kind of gets stuck in and locked into place because the metal is getting warm and it expands, so then it can be hard to pull your auger out. In addition, aside from pulling your auger out with the metal expanding, now the metal on top of the motor could expand, and the metal on here could expand. So now this piece could also get stuck on top. So then you got to kind of like just jar it and maybe knock a little bit to like get it unstuck, which I have done. On the Omega, you're not going to have two parts getting stuck. You only have one because you just have the motor shaft goes directly into the auger, so it's almost like a direct drive, which I kind of like a little bit better. That being said, with the Omega, you have this seal in here that I have seen on occasion go defective, have a crack in it, and in the beginning ones, when the machine first came out, it would tend to leak a little bit of juice on top of your juicer. If that's happening, you need to get a replacement bushing here, and or adjust how you're juicing. If you're backing up the juicer too much and not pre-cutting and not slowing down and using a pusher, then you will get leaks on top of your juicer, not because the bearing's at fault, because you're cramming things into the juicer too fast and it has nowhere else to go. Okay, so yeah, the bearing, this bushing here is pretty critical. Now, as I told you guys, this also has as this runs, this also runs the gearing that spins this little orange gear in the bottom. If you guys can see that orange gear, and inside the VSJ, it's clean. So what does this mean? This means when you're done juicing, there's no nooks and crannies in here. You just go around and clean it fairly easily. And in the Nama juicer, you can't necessarily do that because there's going to be basically crud underneath this little gear. So you just push the bottom of this gear up, and then you can remove this gear. So this gear is yet another thing to clean. Once again, this gear can get trapped in, phytonutrients and minerals in there. I've actually seen a lot of buildup on the top of this gear. And so it's just yet another thing to clean, and another thing that you might lose when you take this out. So then you got to make sure you pop it back in when you're done. Yeah, and then the other thing, so this is a lot heavier because of the different gearing and all that stuff. And then you have that flap here. So this flap is controlled by this lever. So you guys have to look carefully, like right here, you guys can see the little lever action as I'm moving this. You see the little spring, the little arm moving back and forth. Now the issue with this is that while this does move it back and forth, which is a pro, the con is that this is running in one plane. It's running up and down. It doesn't run sideways or front and back. So the question is, while you can easily brush off and clean the bottom of this, which I do every time, you now need to kind of remove and like, it's really hard even for me to do it, you need to like pull and clean the top side of this little bushing that I've actually never really removed, because if I do that, then remove it and put it back on, it may damage it or something. So I haven't really done that. So it's really not functional to clean easily, whereas on this one, there's a little pull tab, more manual style. You can pull it out, and as you guys can see, you could easily flip it over so you could clean the top and the bottom. I think this is actually a very critical component to clean, because number one, it is black, so if it should grow black mold due to buildup, you won't be able to easily see it. And on the Nama, you cannot clean the top of it, which I find a little bit gross. That being said, this part is also known to break off, is covered under warranty generally from what I've seen, because it is on its own flap, and if you pull it too hard and whatnot, it can get damaged. Whereas I could see actually on this part, unless you're pulling it off and on to clean it underneath there properly, you're never pretty much going to damage it, So, yeah, everything, once again, pro and cons on that. Other than that, the bowls pretty much work the same. Oh, the other thing I want to point out on the bowls is, if you guys look in that bowl and the spout where the juice comes out, they put this little blocker here so you can't stick your finger up in there and get it stuck on the juicer, get it torn off. Which, that's a number one harborage point. That's the hardest part for me to clean on the sides of that little point. Whereas on the VSJ, there's no such little stopper thing. You could get your finger up there, you could get like a little brush up there to clean it. So I like that this is a lot easier to clean. So this is where that extra minute comes into play, cleaning up the bottom of all these little gears, and also pulling out that little orange gear, and then kind of trying to deal with this other thing, and then also dealing with a little bit more pulp on the screen. So I'm more efficient at cleaning the VSJ843. Always make sure that when you're done cleaning, you want to put this black tab back in the machine and press it all the way in there. Once again, on this unit, you want to just make sure that this is on the closed position so that you will get the maximum yield when juicing. Alright, so let's go ahead and assemble these machines to show you guys how easy they are to assemble. It's not hard, but if you don't assemble it right, they will not turn on. First, we will assemble the VSJ843. So we're going to take the bowl, make sure our flap is in, and this kind of just goes down and locks in. The juicing spout is always pointed straight forward. We then take the juicing screen and the wiping blade. We put the wiping blade on. The juicing screen will actually kind of sink down more deeper into the wiping blade to reveal a little, little knockouts that the auger will go into. You could drop this piece into the machine, and when I spin it around until it drops into place, you then take the auger. You take the auger and put it inside there, and then basically you line up the auger with the little drop cutout points, and then it drops in. Last step is you want to take this top. There's a little orange arrow which you're going to point directly to the back of the machine, and then you're going to go ahead and turn it to line up with the other orange arrow on the top of the machine, so that if you assemble this properly, you can turn the machine on. And that's how pretty much it sounds. On the Nama, pretty much a similar assembly process. You're going to take the bowl, put the bowl, the juice spout on this bowl comes out to like where the on-off switch is, which is actually kind of interesting if you look at the on-off switch. The on-off switches pretty much look the same, except for this one's black and this one's kind of like a chrome-plated plastic. Next, we're going to go ahead and take the screen and the wiping blade, put that on, and then we're just going to go ahead and once again turn it and drop it down into place. We're going to then put the auger, goes in, drops into place, and then we're going to go ahead and put the top on. There's a little line on the top. Has to line up with the line on the back of here, but to put it on, you're going to rotate it to the side and then rotate it back in place. And if this is assembled properly, you can turn it on. Pretty much you're going to get similar noise or noise level on both machines that run at the same RPMs, although the outside spinner I think is running at a fraction of that. Maybe it's running at like 17 RPM, where the spinner on this is running at 43 RPM. I don't know if you guys can see the difference on how fast that goes and how slow that goes. But pretty much, all the machines will make some kind of like clicking or noise as the machine's running. It's totally normal. The other thing you guys may notice is when you turn the machine on, there may be a little bit of rocking on the top housing, and I'm exaggerating the rocking because I'm doing it manually. And even same thing with the Nama. There may be a little bit of rocking on the Nama. Do not be concerned or alarmed if you get a little bit of movement on the juicer. This is completely normal. If it was super tight, you would turn it on, everything would crack. So there needs to be a little bit of play in there, and that's completely normal. I guess the other things I want to talk about real quick before we move on is that both these machines will come with various accessories that I'm not going to really show you guys today. They both come with basically the same exact juicing cups. They both come with, you know, the pushers. They both come with a cleaning brush. They also come with an instruction book. The other thing the Nama comes with, but not the VSJ, are a few different attachments, which is really nice. So the Nama will also come with the sorbet screen. You know, they only advocate making sorbets with this. Other juicers that have a blank, such as this, may be able to make nut butters, although some will not. The Nama is not designed to make nut butters, but this is for making frozen fruit sorbets. So you can just basically put this in place of the juicing screen, which I will show you guys how to do that. You'll take out this whole assembly here. You'll put this in its place, and then you'll just go ahead and put the auger in place, and then you'll put the top set on. Now you've turned this machine into making a frozen fruit sorbet maker. So basically you put frozen fruit through there, frozen berries, frozen, you know, bananas, and then you will turn it into like the frozen yogurt consistency style ice cream. I do not recommend you use this attachment for anything else other than sorbet, because the problem is, say you're using it for cabbage, you just want to grind up cabbage. It's going to work until it gets through here, but then as it's coming out, you got that little blocker piece that then is going to block some of the cabbage from coming out. Then likely the cabbage will back up, and then it'll likely break the machine. So that's why they advertise this as a sorbet screen only. The VSJ does not have this sorbet screen, but it is an approved use that I verified through the vice president of Omega. You can make sorbets with the juicing screen. This is kind of like a rinky-dink workaround, but you guys can do that. Link is down below. Now, unlike Nama that says you should not be making nut butters with this part, the VSJ, you have the go-ahead from the vice president when I checked, and when I made the video, that you can use the juicing screen also to make nut butters if you follow my implicit directions to do so. There are specific steps you need to take, including not piling in all the nuts at once, just putting a handful, letting it process, letting it come out, and then put some more, do it a nice slow and moderate pace. Once again, link is down below in the video for that. Now the thing that the Nama comes with that's actually kind of nice that the VSJ does not is this screen right here. So you have the standard juicing screen, which actually has the fine holes, and then you actually get this screen, which is the coarse screen, you know, for making more pulp in your juice. Now, one of the things Omega doesn't tell you, and nobody really knows except me, maybe some of the customer service reps at Omega know this, while the Omega does come with the standard small hole juicing screen that is installed in the machine, you can actually buy as an optional accessory from Omega, and you'll probably have to call them for this because I don't even think it's on their website, but they also have a coarse screen that will fit in the machine. Now this isn't at additional cost, whereas you are getting this included with the Nama, so that actually is nice. I'm not going to quote prices on this because I don't exactly know, but this does fit in the VSJ843 without any issues. If I can get this locked into place and put in without any issues. Yeah, so you could do pretty much the same task. Now this is an additional purchase on the Omega. That being said, you know, when you get the Omega outright, you get a 15-year warranty. With this machine, you get 2-year warranty on the parts, 10 years on the motor. This is 15 years, so hey, if you got to buy an extra, you know, coarse screen, if you want to make things with more pulp in it. That being said, honestly, I've never used a coarse screen in my Omega because I'm not a big fan of pulp. This may be helpful if you're juicing fruits and you want more pulp in there to get it to juice better, to maybe get a little bit more efficient yield. I haven't really found that to be the case, and I just don't like dealing with extra parts. Honestly, both these parts on my Nama have been sitting around. I just don't use them because I have better machines to make sorbet if I want to make sorbet than my Nama. And you know, I would like you guys to realize that every juicer has its own sets of pros and cons, and some things it's better at. And when you start trying to make a juicer do more than one thing, like be a food processor, make nut milk, and do all these things, it's not going to be as efficient or do good at other, you know, processes or other things you're trying to do with it, all right? So I pretty much just like to use both these machines just as juicers, because with a fine hole screen, because that's what they really excel at. All right, so you guys saw the differences between the different parts, some of the different accessories. Now the final thing I like to say is that, you know, both these machines come you know, in a box, and actually I do want to say that Nama does have a nicer presentation for the box. Everything's nice and neatly labeled and, you know, clearly drawn out. The packaging is exquisite, one of the best packaging on any different product I have seen. They give you like a nice quick start guide. So they handhold you actually a bit more, and even give you the president of Nama his email when you buy the juicer, which I was like, whoa, this is impressive. Whereas Omega just gives you a customer service number to call if you have any problems. And the packaging, it is functional, and I rarely get damage in shipments of the Omega. You know, it's not quite as nice, but once again, this to me, I mean, yes, it's overall part of the presentation and part of the juicer, but to me, I mean, I could care less if the packaging is really nice. What I really care about is how does a juicer perform and how easy is it to use, because you look at the packaging once when you open the box up, and it's kind of important for customer experience. But in the end, you will be using your juicer each and every day, I hope, like I do, because I drink 3 juices each and every day. And one of the juices that I need to have next is what I'm going to be making next for you guys. You guys can see how these juicers work in a real world example of me making my own green juice. Today we will be juicing 100% organic romaine lettuce hearts. And so we're going to come back and get lettuce weighed out in even amounts, and we're going to juice them in each juicer. We're going to see how much juice each juicer makes. I've never done this side by side in these juicers, although I have juices recipe in both juicers, you know, not against each other, but just at different times. And I think I kind of know what's going to happen, but I want to see for reals and also be able to share this with you guys. More importantly, we're going to be timing how long it takes, and this is where, in my opinion and based on my experience, the VSJ is going to kick some royal you-know-what. Alright, so now I'm all ready and set up to juice, but the first step is we're going to go ahead and do a weigh-in to make sure we have a fair fight. Alright, let's go ahead and do a weigh-in over on the Nama side. We got 3 heads of organic romaine. Looks like 1104 on the grams, and then over on the VSJ843 side, 1104 grams. Go ahead and give you guys a close-up on both scales. 1104. Looks like we do have a fair fight. 3 heads of organic romaine. Let's get juiced! Now that we've done the weigh-in, we're going to go ahead and remove the scales out of the way. We have basically 3 romaine hearts. Now I do want to give you guys a disclaimer that normally on leafy green vegetables, you will want to pre-cut them. So leafy greens such as spinach, kale, collard greens, Swiss chard, they have long fibrous stems that have strings. Even things like celery and ginger should be pre-cut into 1/8 inch or 1/4 inch pieces before putting in the machine, or you may jam it. So don't do what I'm going to do with just standard greens and shove them in thinking you guys could do that. Romaine lettuce is a little bit different. It doesn't have those thick fibrous strings that other greens do, so these can be juiced just as long as you could fit it in the chute. It will basically get juice. The challenge with the Nama, as I showed you guys, smaller feed chute, and this is where it took me significantly longer to juice, and we're going to find out actually how much longer it takes in this video, because I've never done this side by side, although I've juiced plenty of straight romaine in either of these juicers at different various points. Alright, so what I'm going to do is we got a little stopwatch here, so we're going to put this front and center so you guys can see it. I think we're going to go ahead and juice in the VSJ843 first. We're going to basically move these out of the way, because what I will need to do is I will need to pre-cut the greens before putting them into the juicer, because, you know, if I can't take out this whole head, maybe in a Kuvings I could, but I can't just take this out and put it in. It doesn't exactly fit generally for the VSJ anyways. I got to cut these in half. And for the Nama, as you guys will see, I usually have to cut them into quarters, like the long way, or even 1/6, which is kind of insane. And so we're going to time the whole process, including the time it takes me to cut them up and get them put into the juicer. So I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to go ahead and hit the start button, turn it on, and get this first head of lettuce. We're going to chop the whole thing in half, and just slide it in. Do a larger feed chute, literally half a head of lettuce could literally go into the machine, and basically I'm just hand pushing it in, and then you might have to use the pusher at the very end just to get it into the machine. I do not encourage you guys to use a pusher unless you have to. Let's see, next, half a head. Once again, put that whole head straight in, no problem. It just kind of condenses down in that feed chute. We're going to go ahead and get any of these little strings that were off the head into the juicer as well. Adjust that cup a little bit better. All right, off to the second head. This one's a bit thick, so we might have to cut it in half and then take a couple off the sides, but we'll see what happens. Once again, we're going to take this whole thing, boom, right in the machine. Super simple, super easy. I do encourage you guys to, like, if you push things in, like, you know, do it at a slow and moderate pace. If you push things in the machine, you may be pushing things in too quickly. All right, we're going to go ahead and take some of these random pieces that came off and just kind of push them in. There's not a lot of blockage in the machine. I can push things in fairly easily. Pulp's coming out extremely dry. Now this other half, it might be a bit too big to fit in, so we're just going to go ahead and pull off maybe a few leaves off the side and then just put these in separately. Alright, last head of romaine going into the VSJ843. We're going to go ahead and grab a couple of those larger pieces. But you could really see that, you know, when you get a nice large romaine, if you, you know, maybe select the smaller ones when you buy them, you can literally just cut them in half and put them right in fairly quickly and easily. This one's also a smaller head, so we should be able to slice this one right in half. Grab a couple of these smaller leaves. Throw those in. I always like to put in the leaf side first with the stem end last. The stem end has a lot more fiber that'll help push through all the leaves through the machine, so you get a more efficient juice. Alright, finally last half of lettuce, and we were pretty much all done juicing except for the middle one that was a bit larger. Both the other heads basically were easily cut in half and put in the machine, and this is the kind of time savings you can achieve, you know, when juicing fat items like super fat carrots or even beets. Beets I gotta cut up super small to fit into the Nama, not so with the VSJ, but I'm really curious to see how much this juicer will yield compared to the other one. Is the Nama really superior than the VSJ that has the easier feed chute, that's easier to feed things in? This machine did not stop or slow down during the entire time juicing. Now the last thing you'll want to remember is, once you put that last piece of produce in the machine, don't instantly turn the machine off. As long as pulp is still coming out of the machine and juice is still coming out, then you'll want to let the machine run a little bit more. So we're going to go ahead and include this in the time, although we'll make a note of this. 4.5 minutes approximately at this point. I'll probably let it run maybe about until 5 minutes, because the pulp is still flowing and the juice is still coming out of the machine as well. Make sure we look down the feed chute. Yep, I mean, I definitely see some leaves stuck inside the auger that are just spinning and not getting juice. In addition, I'm seeing some leaves at the top of the wiping blade, which tells me I was pushing in things too fast and it was kind of mushing and getting to the sides. Yeah, anyways, I think we're pretty much done juicing. We're going to go ahead and turn this machine off. And now we're going to go ahead and hit stop. Yep, so reset it. So it's like basically over 5 minutes it took to juice in the VSJ843. Let's find out how long the Nama juicer will take right now. So let's juice in the Nama. Turn this on, grab the first head of lettuce. Let's see if we can cut this guy in half, right in half like we did in the VSJ, and check it out. Won't fit as much as I can push it, strong as I am, so now we're gonna have to cut this in half again. Alright, so now we got this into quarters. Can we fit it in the chute? Yes, we could barely fit in the chute and squeeze it on down. And as you guys can see, I'm getting, like, because of the funnel's kind of small, its pieces are just coming off the side and coming off the side. Now we gotta take the pusher, which is over here, and push this guy in. Then we can grab the second piece that I cut. This one will fit in, although it's rubbing highly against the edges. And it will not auto feed, so we will have to once again use that pusher and push this in. Last piece. Oh, we got a couple random leaves. Drop those in there. I think the Nama is sounding a little bit louder than the VSJ. Last piece. Ooh, I think we could barely fit that in. And get that down into the chute and push it in. And it's kind of just mushing up and not going in as easily, so we're going to have to push this in also. Alright, next head. Yeah, this head's going to have to be cut in quarters for sure. Alright, I want to give you guys an update. So I'm pushing produce in the Nama, and it's a lot more harder to push. There's a lot more blockages and jamming right before it goes into the machine, and also have to like use some downward force to kind of get the lettuce to kind of even get in the machine. It's just not being juiced as easily, in my opinion, despite potentially having more torque or whatever. You know, it's great to have motor torque on paper, but it's another thing if the motor torque does not translate into making your juicing, process easier. To me, this is more difficult. Like, I normally don't have to strain this much to like get produce to juice. And we're already up at 5 minutes, and we still got one head to go, man. Oh my gosh, this is insane. Maybe we'll get a higher yield because of it. I'm not exactly sure. Once again, we got a couple random pieces of lettuce we're just going to pull off that are kind of loose anyways. And we're just going to kind of put these in there separately. I guess we'll go ahead and speed this video up for you guys and save you guys a little bit of time. Alright, we're down to the last piece of lettuce, and just cutting all this lettuce up into smaller pieces makes a lot more mess on the counter, plus the smaller feed chute as I'm putting stuff in, I'm getting like shreds of lettuce as it's being shredded off the side and coming over the top of this funnel, because it's just really not sufficient, you know. I mean, I wish the guys that designed these juicers, aside from looking pretty, which yeah, this one does look pretty, and to me it's just not that functional, and that really bothers me a lot. I'm a really guy of function, and I don't care if it looks cool, man, but I just want it to work good and be easy to use, because in the end, guess what? You're gonna have higher levels of juice compliance, meaning when you're gonna juice, you're gonna like, oh yeah, that's easy, I'm gonna do it, it's gonna be simple, like that guy. I mean, look, we're already up to like 8 minutes now. That's totally insane. That's like about twice the amount of time it took in the VSJ843 just to juice the same amount of lettuce. And I'm gonna let this guy run about another half a second or half a minute or so to make sure we get all the juice out so that we have a fair comparison. So I think we're pretty much good. We're gonna go ahead and stop that baby, stop this guy right here, and we're at like 9 minutes. So literally from 4.5 minutes to 9 minutes, you know, I'm gonna say that's like basically almost double the amount of time to juice in the Nama. So up till now, what are you guys thinking? I mean, yeah, the Nama is pretty cool, few small issues, but man, when you juice with it, in this situation anyways, considerably longer juicing time. And I'll be honest with you guys, this is what I've experienced using the Nama, primarily due to the smaller feed chute. And I mean, I'm just getting spills off the top, not super functional for what I like to juice, right? And especially when you have to pre-cut greens and drop them in this chute, that's gonna fall over. This chute, once again, you gotta put them in and flick them in. Not the funnest thing to do. So when done juicing, I always like to take the juicers and tip them up so you guys can see we have some juice out of that. Then we'll close our spout. Same with the Nama. We're going to take this guy and tip it up a little bit less out of that. Oh yeah, look, we got pieces of leaves on this side that fell over the chute because the funnel was insufficient, in my opinion. All right, so now let's go ahead and put these juices up front and center for you guys to see how much juice each juicer made. All right, let's go ahead and compare the juices. Number one, I want you guys to notice the difference in the color of the juices. So to me, this is actually quite interesting. You know, both juicers run at 43 RPMs. They both pretty much kind of work the same way with a similar auger and everything. But the juice on the Nama is actually a lot more, like, I don't know, ruddy green. To me, my personal and professional opinion on this is that this is oxidative damage. I've seen this also happen with the Omega MM900 because it basically restricts more pulp and it just grinds better. It causes more oxidation to the juice. And so that means, you know, it's probably going to get a higher yield. This also may be due to the more torque on it. You know, but it did get a higher yield. Look at that, man. It's probably like maybe 790 milliliters of juice. So it actually made more juice than the VSJ. But look at that. The juice is a lot deeper, rich, green. Like, what juice looks more appealing to you to drink? You know, I won't say what this one looks like. To me, this looks like a nice green juice. This will affect the flavor as well as how good the juice stores. The reason for this is the more antioxidants in the juice that was not oxidized, the more the juice can be protected from oxidative damage later. If the juice was oxidized during the making, like in a high-speed juicer, for example, it's not going to store as well as a juicer that produces less oxidized juice. Although, the more oxidized juice may be a sign of more enzymatic activity. That's what your goal is. The other thing I want to show you guys is the foam level created. So I want you guys to look at just a layer of foam on the top there and on the top there. I mean, pretty much I would say similar foams on both machines. Maybe the VSJ foam settled a little bit, but I'd say for all practical purposes, it's similar amounts of foam. So the reduction of the wiping blade, I don't think really is significant in foam reduction, personally. But once again, this one's at like maybe straight up 750 milliliters, whereas this one is at like maybe like 90. So it's like, I don't know what, 40 milliliters more. That's like 5% more juice, but it's more oxidized. So which one do you choose? Well, let's investigate this further. All right, so next thing I want to do for you guys is I want to go ahead and sieve out the juice to find out which juicer actually put more pulp in the juice and also get maybe a better reflection of the actual yield, because if one juicer or the other put more pulp in the juice, that would artificially inflate the yield. I know in the Nama juice, I know some particulate of pieces of lettuce flew over the top and flew actually in the juice as I was juicing. So let's pour this juice out. I mean, it's pretty smooth, you know, overall, but once again, it's that ruddy color. Oh yeah, and there's that big piece of lettuce that literally fell off the side of the juicer in the juice. This artificially inflated some of the yield there. And let's go ahead and pour this guy in. So I mean, instantly you guys can see the deeper, richer green color, man. You know, to me this is more of a cold pressed juice. Wow, now this is actually quite interesting. I wasn't quite expecting this. I always sieve out my juicers after making. And if we sieve out both these juicers, basically what I'm seeing here, aside from the big piece that came through the Nama, right? There's actually, the Nama put very little pulp residues actually in the juice. That's actually a little bit kind of impressive for me. Just off the top, it looks like we measured up to about, well, I'm not gonna read off the top. I'm not looking at it square and even. But the VSJ, on the other hand, you know, definitely put more pulp into the juice, you know, as it goes. All right, I wanted to give you guys a shot of this. So after sieving the juice out over on the Nama side, looks like we have like just over 800. I don't know, not quite 825, maybe like 8. I don't know. 820 maybe. And then over on the VSJ843 side, looks like we're pretty much at 775. So the difference really did not change too much. And yes, the Nama still made more, but the Nama's juice still is more oxidized, but it did contain less particulate in it. Alright, so as you guys can see, both juicers were fairly efficient at juicing the romaine hearts lettuce. They made pretty close yields within each other, 5 to 10% difference. But what was difference? Well, number one, the color of the juice that came out. These were the same lettuces out of the same package. So that one oxidized more, was just quite curious to me. The other thing was that this is a lot darker, although this made more, about the same amount of foam. Now, I do want to try, and the VSJ made more pulp in the juice, right? These machines are the same price. Once again, 15-year warranty, 10-year/2 year. And I want to try these juices. We're going to try the VSJ juice first. If I was just juicing for myself, I would always use a VSJ for the romaine hearts, because it took like half the time. So do you want to spend double the time to get, what did I get? We got like 5 to 10% more juice for double the time, plus a lot more pain in the butt. and it's more oxidized. That's up to you guys. I'm just showing you guys what happens, right? But now I know, because I've done it side by side. I never really realized the difference in color. I just noticed that I knew it was a pain to to juice in the Nama. So we're going to go ahead and try this juice. Maybe I'll pour a little bit less out here. Wow, that's so good. You guys got to try straight romaine heart juice. To me, it reminds me of chocolate milk. Of course, there's no chocolate and there's no milk in here. But it kind of has that like a little bit bitter taste, but at the same time kind of sweet and smooth, and just goes right down. And this is a low D juice for those of you guys that are aware of what D is, and I won't be mentioning that. So good. Yeah, nice and clean. I don't taste too much like oxidative damage or anything. Let's go ahead on this Nama juice. Once again, this juice is a lot more darker. I believe that to be because of the oxidative damage. Yeah, to my untrained taste buds, this one doesn't taste quite as good to me. It has like a little bit of a, I don't know how I want to describe that, a little bit of off flavor, but that's the oxidative damage. I mean, you taste the oxidation. I mean, if I did a demo where I did like high speed versus low speed juice, you clearly taste the difference between oxidized high speed versus low speed juice. But even in a low speed versus low speed, my taste buds can sense a little bit of difference in this juice. Plus, this does just not look as nice. Maybe if you juice a lemon with it, it might help it. But hey, if you did a lemon in this, it'd even be better, because we're already starting off with, in my personal opinion, higher quality product. Of course, I have not done any kind of scientific studies to see what is actually going on. But by the signs of this juice, I think that personally is oxidative damage. I mean, it's still alright, and I will still end up drinking it, alright? Oh, and I want to show you guys what's left in the juicers, because I like to tell it like it is. No juicer's perfect. If you want to get the juicer cleaner, when you're done, you could take some of the pulp and run it back through. That'll work to some or a lesser extent. It'll still have a lot more pulp in the juice. You could also pour some water through there, close the spout cap, and let it run. Let some of that stuff run out. We'll open this up. You guys can see inside. Not a lot in the feed chute. But if we take out this part here, you guys can see clearly, if we dunk this upside down, there's lots of romaine that just did not get juiced. If we did want this to go down, what you would do at the end is you'd put a sacrificial carrot in at the end that would then push through all the romaine leaves in there. Carrots are a lot less expensive than romaine, and at the end you'd have some romaine carrot juice, and you could change out your glass if you did not want that all, mushed together. But yeah, that's what this looks like on the inside. And then over on the VSJ843, once again, pull this up, a little bit underneath there, but once again, over on the VSJ, there's a, good amount of pulp still left in this apparatus here. As evidence, actually, even it looks like a little bit more pulp is left in the VSJ to me, despite the, small difference in yield. So maybe if you did put a carrot in there, it would raise up the yield. The other thing, actually, did we look at that? I want to look at the color, the actual color of the produce inside to see if it's actually, oh yeah, so you can see that. So at the bottom point of the juicer is where really it grinds up, and it's kind of like that's where it's most effective if they lessen the space or tighten the space, loosen or tighten. So because there's maybe more grinding action at the bottom of the Nama to get more yield, it also does more oxidative damage, whereas the VSJ I personally think is a much better design that does not oxidize as much but still gets a very high yield. So yeah, and then let's see, inside this guy there's not a lot of left to clean inside there, and then in the Nama there's always a little bit more pulp residue that I've noticed on the inside of the Nama to clean once you're done. So in the end of this episode, after making a whole mess and using over, I don't know, 2 hours of my time to make this video for you guys, what am I going to say? What have you guys been waiting for? Well, you guys saw it, here. The Nama did make more juice. So if I was going solely on yield, then I'd have to say the Nama won. That being said, I don't go solely on yield. I go with the overall experience, including the cleaning experience that I get to experience in just a minute. And I'll tell you guys, the VSJ will take me about 3 minutes to clean. The Nama will take me 4 minutes to clean, so that's 25% longer in cleaning, and also double the time approximately in this recipe when juicing. So that adds significantly more time. So if I gotta now add, it's making basically another extra 5 minutes to my time, because it took an extra 4 minutes to juice or so, and an extra minute to clean, an extra 5 minutes for basically a little bit more juice that's more oxidized. In addition, you're not getting a 15-year warranty. You're only getting a 10-year warranty on the motor, 2 years on the top parts. A company that is not time proven. Omega has been time proven in business for 30 years, 15-year warranty on the entire machine. And more importantly, that larger feed chute that really makes juicing much easier. Also, produce feeds easier into the juicer, as I've experienced and as you guys saw to some extent with this video. I'm not saying Nama is a bad machine. It is a good machine if you can deal with the short warranty and the smaller feed chute, because yeah, you probably will get a little bit more yield. It will be probably a little more oxidized. It probably is maybe a little more, ground up and more enzymatically rich, because the enzymes cause some of the reactions that are happening in the juice. I mean, for me, I'm gonna go with the Omega. I really like this style design. It just is easier to use, and I'm willing to give up a little bit of yield and maybe a little bit more pulp in the juice, for a higher quality juice and an easier juicing experience. Because here's the thing, in the end, if it's too hard, I'm just not going to juice. You could buy the most expensive juicer, it could sit on your shelf and you not juice, then you're not going to get the benefits. That's why to this date I still prefer the VSJ as my primary juicer, and hopefully Omega gets their stock issues worked out so that the VSJ can be in stock so that you guys could purchase it, because to me it is still one of the best vertical single auger juicers after all these years. If you guys are interested in purchasing the VSJ or the Nama, check the links down below to go to our website where you can purchase both these machines and support me in my work so I can continue to make these style videos for you guys. I appreciate that so much. If you guys like this video, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and be sure to share this video with other people that may be considering a Nama, maybe somebody that owns a Nama, maybe some people that have owned a Nama already is experiencing some of these small issues after upgrading from their VSJ, and they're like, oh, I shouldn't have upgraded. Because, while you do have a few more functions with it, everything in life is a pro and a con. So I'm glad I could make this video, guys, so you guys can determine what you want to do, and maybe you'll see as clearly as I saw the VSJ in this case is better. Maybe you won't. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you don't miss out on my new and upcoming episodes. I come out every 5 to 7 days. You don't know where I show up or what you'll be learning on my YouTube channel. Make sure you click the little bell so you get notified as my new videos come out. And finally, be sure to check my past episodes. My past episodes are a wealth of knowledge, over 500 episodes at this time on this YouTube channel, dedicated to comparing and contrasting all the different major brand juicers out there so that you guys can get the right juicer for you and start juicing for life and get the benefits that the fresh juice can provide. It's amazing. Once you start doing it, you will not want to give it up. So with that, my name is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for our YouTube visitors.